get out. Oh, by the way, and here's a bill for tens and tens of thousands of pounds.
Marriage is in peril. It's bad for Harry and Meghan in their marriage.
F off back to Montecito.
They are actually in the United Kingdom, just not in London right now.
As new questions are being asked about the state of Prince Harry's marriage to Meghan Markle, as she stayed away from his darkest moments.
Something shifted the instant Prince Harry touched down in Britain, not at the palace, not inside the courtroom, and not when yet another royal door seemed to slam right in front of him. The real shock was much closer than anyone expected.
Harry is always there for Meghan, and she is never, ever there for him when he needs her. And I think that's very, very telling about the true nature of their marriage. And I don't think it's a happy one.
Harry came back to the country that shaped his life, while Meghan stayed almost completely out of sight. He stepped into one of the hardest weeks of his public life without his wife standing beside him.
She was meant to be at Chelsea Hospital today. In the famous operational notes that were sent to all of the little propagandists on the WhatsApp group, that was meant to be Meghan's big moment, and she wasn't there. And she wasn't there yesterday either, by the way, when he was having some type of breakdown.
And now, even with reports claiming Meghan and the children may already be somewhere in Britain, Harry continues showing up completely alone. So what are we really seeing here? A husband trying to reclaim part of the life he once knew while his wife quietly heads in a very different direction? Because this was not just another rough week for Prince Harry. This was a brutal week.
This has been a bad week for Harry. No, this has not been a bad week. It's been a terrible week. Absolutely one of the worst in his life. I mean, it's even worse than when he dressed up as a Nazi.
Is the Sussex fairy tale marriage starting to crack? At the exact moment he seemed to need support more than ever, Meghan was nowhere by his side. One disappointment can be brushed aside, two can be justified. But when everything starts unraveling at the same time, people begin asking a much bigger question. Is Harry only losing his fight with Britain? Or is Britain revealing a widening gap inside his own marriage?
Everybody, including Harry, everybody's got to coddle Meghan, but she should have been there at the very least, even if she didn't want to make an appearance. You think, given that she is supposed to know the fragile state of mind her husband has been put in by all of this stress, because she often parrots this as well, but there's never any concern for Harry.
For years, Harry and Meghan showed the world they were one team. They walked away from royal life together. They settled in California together. They shared their story together. They challenged the palace together. They built the Sussex brand around the belief that they would always protect each other no matter what happened. But look at the situation today. Harry keeps returning to Britain. Meghan does not. Harry keeps speaking about reconciliation. Meghan does not. Harry keeps trying to reopen palace doors. Meghan seems far more comfortable leaving those doors firmly closed. Britain keeps pulling Harry in one direction, while Meghan appears to be heading somewhere completely different. Or maybe she is no longer trying to pull him anywhere at all, choosing instead to leave that chapter behind.
Meghan is done with watching Harry being humiliated on the world stage. Let me tell you something, Meghan girl. Your husband already did that when he wrote that book, Spare.
That is exactly why this visit feels so different. The biggest headline is no longer another setback for Harry. The real story is that his connection to Britain now seems to be something he is carrying completely by himself. Britain has become Harry's personal mission. He is the one boarding the flights back. He is the one attending court hearings. He is the one appearing at Invictus events. He is the one speaking about his father, his security, his childhood, and his hopes for reconciliation.
They're not going to get those glossy headlines about the sweet reunion between Markle and the man that walked her down the aisle, King Charles. So I don't think, even though Harry's team is teasing we could get a Meghan Markle appearance on Friday, I don't think we'll see her, because when Harry's having a difficult time, Meghan doesn't want to be involved.
Meghan may still gain from the royal connection, but she no longer appears willing to face the pressure that comes with standing beside Harry and Britain together anymore. Critics have argued that Meghan still relies on the royal connection because the Sussex brand appears much stronger whenever it seems close to the monarchy. A photograph with the king would make headlines around the world. A private family reunion could dominate the news for weeks. One carefully managed image involving the children could quickly reconnect the Sussexes with the institution they chose to leave behind. But what happens when that reunion brings no huge public moment? What happens when there is no royal balcony, no palace accommodation, no full police protection, and no photograph showing Harry and Meghan back inside the royal circle? She is not there beside Harry.
The titles matter. Having an open family connection matters to Meghan Markle. Knowing that they have proximity to royalty, it matters. So the story only works if Harry still has some doorway back into the royal world.
Would Meghan still value that relationship if there were no public advantage attached to it? That is the difficult question. A quiet relationship with Harry's family would require patience, privacy, and compromise. It could mean meetings nobody ever sees, conversations that are never leaked, and photographs that never become public. It would mean rebuilding trust without instantly turning that trust into another headline or publicity opportunity.
For goodness sake, can't they just meet up for a slice of cake and a cup of tea? That would be something.
Yeah, well, why? But they should. But the whole thing from day one has been, will they, won't they?
Yeah.
And it's basically been driven by the Sussexes.
Some commentators believe that is exactly where Meghan's interest begins to fade. They argue the royal connection matters most when it boosts the Sussex image, creates worldwide attention, or helps future business projects. But if the relationship stays completely private, what exactly does Meghan gain from it?
Well, we'll do it, Harry, if we can get what we want, like our photo op. Have a connection to royalty that makes it look like we're back on the inside, right? But she doesn't want things to be private. She doesn't want things to look like they have the appearance of still being on the outside if, no one can see that they are benefiting from being in alignment with royalty again. Because the Sussex brand was built on the royal connection.
That criticism becomes even stronger when people compare Harry's father with Meghan's own father, Thomas Markle. Why, critics ask, should Meghan work so hard for access to Harry's father while remaining distant from her own? Is it because Harry's father is the king, while her father is simply her father? That may sound harsh, and family relationships are always more complicated than outsiders can fully understand. Even so, the contrast is difficult to ignore.
If my dad, who was not here, was ill, I wouldn't... Why announce it in the papers? Why not just go and see him? This whole debacle is for publicity. And here's something Kinsey Schofield has been saying for months. 2 words, Thomas Markle. If it's about your grandchildren seeing their grandparents, you've left a man in a hospital and you haven't had words with him for however many years.
Meghan has shown little public interest in repairing her relationship with Thomas Markle. Yet reports continue describing possible talks, reunions, and photographs involving King Charles. One father represents personal history. The other represents royal status. And to Meghan's critics, that difference explains everything. Now the story has become even more unusual. Several outlets report that Meghan and the children may already be in Britain privately, even though Meghan has not appeared beside Harry during his current engagements.
Meghan Markle will be in the UK in a public way in one way or another. Guys, she can't help it. She loves the publicity. She loves the attention, and she desperately needs the opportunity to merge.
There has been no clear public confirmation from the Sussexes, and reports continue to conflict. But if Meghan really is already in the country, the mystery only grows larger. Why does Harry keep appearing alone? Why was Meghan missing when the court ruling arrived? Why did she not stand beside him after the case that had taken so much of his time, money, and energy throughout the past months? Why was she not appearing at the Invictus Countdown event, a project that has always been at the heart of Harry's identity?
Harry's hair loss, the amount of stress he's been under since he married Meghan, I think it's definitely sped it up because he did have a thicker Brillo pad of hair until his wedding. And then everything from Megxit and everything else, everything he's given up, everything, the stress of constantly trying to make his wife happy.
If she was only a few hours away, her absence was no longer about the challenge of crossing an ocean. It became a choice. And that choice created a story all by itself. Meghan did not need to speak. She did not need to sit inside the courtroom. She did not need to give interviews or pose for photographers. She only needed to be seen beside her husband one single time.
It is really shocking that Meghan Markle chose not to be by Harry's side as the Duke of Delusion suffered through this humiliating loss all on his own.
If Meghan had appeared publicly, the entire narrative could have changed. The headlines would have focused on unity. The photographs would have shown Harry supported by his wife. The trip would have looked like a family reunion instead of one man facing his past alone. But she never appeared. And suddenly, her absence spoke louder than anything she could have possibly said. One royal commentator has offered an even more dramatic interpretation. She suggested Meghan may not want Harry rebuilding his relationship with the palace because reconciliation could reduce her influence over their shared story.
She's not trying to work with royalty. She is not trying to make Harry's life any easier to have a relationship with his family, because let me tell you, Meghan's not trying to have a relationship with her own father or her own family. So do you really think she is trying to have Harry have a relationship with his family if it can't benefit her?
According to that theory, Harry growing closer to his father would not simply repair a family relationship. It could reconnect Harry with advisors, relatives, and a world that exists beyond Meghan's influence. That is not an established fact. It is one commentator's opinion. But it raises a very important question. What happens to Harry and Meghan's partnership if Harry no longer sees the palace as the enemy? Their public image was built around leaving. Their interviews centered on rejection. Their projects repeatedly returned to the struggles they said royal life created.
Why would you want to stay, if you're Meghan and Harry, in the ceremonial symbol home of the royal family that you've labelled racist? Well, in my opinion, only because their brand is failing massively and they want to be they need to be attached photographs in America with the royal family.
If Harry now wants to reconnect with the family he once criticized, does that weaken the story that helped shape their new life in California? Perhaps Meghan believes Britain is one chapter that should stay closed. Harry clearly believes otherwise. He keeps coming back. He returns for court hearings. He returns for charities. He returns for Invictus. He returns while speaking about his father. He returns while asking for security changes. Every visit shows that some part of Harry still feels connected to the world he says he left behind forever. Meghan's future appears rooted in California. Harry's past keeps drawing him back toward Britain. How long can two people keep moving in opposite directions before the growing distance becomes too obvious to ignore?
Meghan is angry because she believes that Harry keeps reaching out to his family and only to be rejected. She's allegedly done with the royals, done with the back and forth. Why, might you ask? Because she doesn't feel like they have anything to atone for. She feels like he should just be welcomed back with open arms.
This week made that question even more emotional, because Harry did not simply appear disappointed. Observers at Chatham House said the court results seemed written across his face. Commentators claimed his voice shook. He reportedly looked tense, hurt, and emotionally overwhelmed after a case he had invested years into ended with defeat. And where was Meghan? At the moment Harry appeared most devastated, the woman who once described them as inseparable was nowhere standing beside him at all. Is that really what a supportive marriage looks like? Would a loving partner stay away during the toughest moment of the week, especially if she was already somewhere in the same country?
Meghan Markle choosing to stay away for this London part of the trip, not because of security, but because she did not want to be dragged into Harry's courtroom humiliation. I think she very much knew he was going to lose and is doing a bit of "I told you so."
Support does not always have to happen in public. Meghan could have been talking with him privately. She could have been waiting somewhere far from the cameras. Nobody outside their marriage truly knows what happened behind closed doors. But public life is shaped by images. And the image everyone saw this week was impossible to miss. Harry alone. Harry facing the cameras alone. Harry receiving the court decision alone. Harry continuing his public engagements alone. Harry trying to smile while the biggest mission of his adult life seemed to crumble right in front of him.
The Duke of Delusion has tried to put a smile on his face as he leaves Chatham House and new footage with a thumbs up. With a thumbs up to try and suggest that everything is okay. when we know it is far from okay.
Every time Harry tries to rebuild bridges, return, or restart communication, Meghan appears to head in the opposite direction. When Harry speaks about wanting his family back, Meghan remains silent. When he travels to Britain, she stays away. When reports mention possible royal meetings, fresh stories appear about conditions, security, and why the Sussexes may not take part. Does Meghan genuinely fear for Harry's safety? Or has security become the perfect reason to avoid a return she never truly wanted? Some critics believe the security debate sets the standard so high that reconciliation becomes almost impossible.
She's not there. You know why? Because she's the reason Harry is trying to get this extra security. It's Meghan's ultimatum. Because she wants to set the bar so high that makes it impossible for Harry to get it, so she doesn't have to come back.
Full protection, royal accommodation, and strict security arrangements would all need to be guaranteed before Meghan could publicly return. If those expectations are not met, she can stay in California while pointing to Britain as the reason the visit could not happen. For Harry, security may feel deeply personal. For Meghan, critics argue, it may also serve a strategic purpose. It allows her to refuse without directly saying she simply does not want to return. And that brings up another important question. Was Meghan upset because Harry was hurting? Or because the royal comeback failed? Those are two completely different things. If she was upset because her husband suffered, why was she not standing beside him?
And Prince Harry's visit is going just as we expected. The bloke is so shamed that he's actually been to the Chelsea hospital today without Meghan Markle. And guess what? No crowds turned up. There's no pictures. There's no drama. I'm sure they'll be released once they're heavily edited, and probably they've filled in the top of his head because, good Lord, this guy is going bald. But that is a whole other issue.
But if she was disappointed because the trip failed to deliver royal access, stronger security, or positive publicity they hoped for, then her absence starts to look very different. Harry's relationship with the palace is not only about family, it also remains part of the Sussex brand's lasting value. Without Harry's royal title, royal history, and ongoing royal disagreements, how much attention would their projects still receive?
She's the most targeted woman. She's the most bullied woman. She's the biggest victim out of them. And Harry probably could have done with a bit of support from her, because let's be honest, he's not got many other people in his life willing to stick their neck out and to support him, because he's destroyed all of his relationships.
Their biggest headlines continue coming from the institution they left behind. Every royal dispute keeps them connected. Every possible reunion makes them relevant again. Every photograph near the palace reminds the public Harry remains the king's son today. So what happens when that final doorway finally closes forever? What happens when Harry keeps returning alone, but the palace no longer opens its doors and Meghan no longer stands beside him? That may be the biggest danger facing the Sussexes.
Meghan she's not going to put up with anything that's going to look like reconciliation with Harry and his family. She is going to blow everything out of proportion because she doesn't want it to happen.
Harry could end up losing both worlds at the same time. He could become too frustrated and unpredictable for the palace to trust again, while also becoming too connected to Britain for Meghan to fully support. He could find himself shut out from the royal family he was born into, while growing emotionally distant from the California future Meghan seems to want him to embrace. At some point, Harry may face a difficult choice, not between two places, between two identities.
This is a very difficult situation for Harry to be in, because at some point he may have to choose between the family he came from, and the family that is responsible for him and his princely-like superpowers that he has given up for Meghan.
The prince, who still wants his father, his country, and some part of royal life back, and the husband who promised Meghan their future, would be built far away from all of it. Harry still seems caught between two completely different worlds. One world holds his title, his childhood, his charities, Invictus, and the family he has never fully let go of. The other holds Meghan, California, their children, and the new life they told everyone had finally given them freedom. But what if those two worlds can no longer exist side by side? Harry still appears determined to hold on to the past. Meghan appears ready for him to move forward, yet he refuses to stop.
She doesn't like the idea that Harry is feeling homesick and that he wants to go back and he wants to rekindle this life again in the United Kingdom with his family. So Meghan, of course, is going to go from 0 to 10 because she doesn't want him going back. So she is the one, I believe, blowing this out of proportion.
He keeps challenging the press. He keeps taking on major institutions. He keeps returning to Britain. And according to one theory shared by royal commentators, Harry's legal fight with the Daily Mail was partly influenced by Meghan's own history with the newspaper. Meghan previously won a privacy case involving the publication of parts of a letter she wrote to Thomas Markle. Harry has also repeatedly said the treatment of Meghan helped shape his broader battle with the British press.
His wife, Meghan, absolutely hated the Mail. Now, poor boy, he has to do everything that Meghan wants for him. He tries his best, but this is ridiculous, and he's going to owe the court £50 million.
Some commentators therefore believe this final case was not only Harry's mission, it was also an effort to confront an opponent Meghan strongly resented, but now he has lost. The court rejected the claims brought by Harry and the other claimants, leaving them facing potentially enormous legal costs and a painful public defeat. If Harry entered this fight partly to defend Meghan, what impact could that loss have on their relationship?
The other issue is what it means for him and Meghan, because she's not going to be happy that he's picked this fight with the Daily Mail and once again lost. And she's going to suffer because the two of them are now even more broke.
Does Meghan blame him for carrying on when the risks became impossible to ignore? Does Harry feel he devoted years of his life to a battle that was never completely his? Or is he determined to prove that this defeat does not mean Meghan was ever wrong? Even inside the courtroom, Meghan repeatedly appeared throughout Harry's evidence and his wider explanation of the battle with the press.
He needs someone to help him, but he doesn't listen. He thinks Meghan is the one to tell him. He listens to her, and he does what she tells him.
Look where the hell it's got him.
Despite the case involving stories dating back before their relationship, why did he keep bringing everything back to her? Was he hoping to make Meghan proud? Was he trying to prove every sacrifice had truly been worth making after all? Or has Harry become so worried about disappointing Meghan that he can no longer separate her battles from his own? Nobody outside their marriage can answer that. But the question refuses to disappear. Harry also keeps making reconciliation even harder through his own decisions. If he truly wanted a private reunion, why did every development become another public briefing battle?
For example, Harry's saying, yeah, when I'm in London, I'll be on my own, but I might take Megs and the kids up to Birmingham.
I mean, it's one country. These that he's worried about, and the stalkers, although I would have thought Harry's stalker has had enough now. I think she's checked out. I think even she's like, look, I'm sick of this guy. Please don't mention Harry's name again. Yes, I might be his stalker, but I am out. Does he not think that they can get on a train? Does he not think that they have access to public transport? Does he not think they could even maybe hire a car and drive from dangerous London to incredibly safe, idyllic Birmingham? Make it make sense.
Why were accommodation, security, meetings, and palace deadlines discussed over and over through the media? Real reconciliation rarely begins with competing headlines. Harry says he wants peace, yet his public comments often spark another dispute. He says he wants trust, but private discussions repeatedly become public stories. He wants access to the palace, then criticizes the institutions around it whenever decisions fail to go his way.
Do you think this boy will ever
Grow up?
yeah, recapture reality in his head? Because I just don't think even my 2-year-old makes as many strategically obvious mistakes as he and her. I'm being completely honest.
I know you are.
Doesn't seem to get anything right at all, Kins. Nothing.
Meghan may appear to be stepping back, but Harry keeps adding more pressure to the situation. That is exactly why this week matters. It was not only a painful court defeat. It was not only another rejected request or another public appearance without Meghan. It became a major test for the entire Sussex partnership. The outcome raised difficult questions. Harry still appears to want something from Britain. Meghan seems to want something from the royal connection, but perhaps not the complicated private relationship that comes with it.
If I were King Charles, I would strip them of their titles, but unfortunately we're constantly talking about the bleeding heart, and yeah, I'm sure he's a very sweet man, and I know he's King Charles, and I know he's ill, but it's okay in this scenario. You will win more fans if you...
Yeah, but I suppose, right, and I'm not just saying this, being in the same position, it's his boy, it's his blood. He probably still thinks that the mother hasn't been around and probably blames himself and all that. But the truth is, you're right. Anybody with a brain cell will go, listen, Charlie boy, he's taken the what's it and has been for years. They want what they can get from just using an institution they purport to hate.
Harry wants the past to welcome him again. Meghan appears determined for their future to remain centered on California under their own direction. Britain keeps pulling Harry one way, Meghan another, and Harry cannot stay caught in the middle forever. So what happens now? Does Meghan finally appear beside him and quiet all the growing questions? Does Harry return to California feeling frustrated, embarrassed, and more isolated than before? Does this difficult week convince him to leave his battle with Britain behind? Or does it push him to fight even harder? And when Harry reaches toward the palace once again, will Meghan stand beside him or quietly drift even farther away? Because the most unforgettable image from this entire trip may not be Harry losing inside the courtroom, it may be Harry walking through Britain alone, still chasing a life his wife no longer seems to want beside him anymore.